All right, folks, we're going to get started. We have quite a big meeting this evening, so we will try to work through everything as quickly as we can, but of course, giving fair time to everything as well. A lot of you are probably here because you're maybe a new member who signed up at the festival, so welcome. If this is your first meeting with us, or if you haven't been here since we started meeting virtually, we do ask that everyone keep your microphones muted unless you're presenting or unless we've opened the floor for questions. You can also ask questions in chat if you're more comfortable doing that. We'll try to make sure we catch everything. If you do happen to unmute or maybe forget to remute yourself, I may mute you during the meeting just to make sure there's no feedback. So no offense meant, just want to make sure everyone is able to be heard. Otherwise, I will upload a copy of the agenda here in chat. One moment. Okay. And we'll actually jump in pretty quickly. I'm going to turn the floor over to Eric, our treasurer, who will give you treasurer's reports. He'll bring those up on the screen, and you can look in the chat in just a moment for the agenda. So Eric, all yours.
Thanks, Jess. We're changing up duties a little bit, so help me. Okay, everybody can see that?
Yep, you're a pro.
Okay, excellent. And like Jess said, I'll attach these in the chat as well afterwards. So first of all, these are the reports for September. I was absent the last meeting for August, so I'll also upload the August reports as well, but I won't go through those. But if anybody has questions, just please let me know, and I'm happy to either answer them offline or later in the meeting. So starting with our checking account, just shy of, oh, sorry, let me also add, this does not include some reconciliations that we still have to do after the festival. So there's some true ups that we need to do with some of the different sales that happened during the festival, as well as I have a petty cash deposit that I have not also taken to the bank yet because I've been traveling. So we'll get those updates in next month's report. But in checking account, currently you can see we have just shy of $9,000. Savings is at $12,000. This is less than what was reported in July. I did have to make some transfers out of savings into checking to cover some upfront festival cost. And so we'll get all that once we get the petty cash deposit included into the bank, then we'll kind of true up those numbers as well, because we won't carry that much cash in the checking account going forward. And then there really is no change in the funds below, except there was a little bit taken out of the summer festival, and then as well the info grant also had some expenses. Any questions on the balance sheet? Okay, now let me see if I can figure out how to. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. I had to move stuff around a little bit. So this is for the income statement. You can see we've actually still had continued really good progress in our memberships, both in the residential and the business. And that's actually going to pick up with this next month. We've had some campaigns. And again, some of the true up. So in the summer festival amount, you can see down there the $9,000. Some of that does include memberships that I need to reconcile back with the more detailed reporting. So some of that will definitely get trued up. But you can see the largest income that we have was from the festivals. We had a really good, successful festival. It was great from a fundraising perspective, covered some of our annual operating costs, as well as gave us some additional buffer to go into next year and to be able to fund additional really cool programming for the community. From an expense perspective, let's see if I can figure out how to scroll down here a little bit. We had our usual lease and utilities, or sorry, rent and utilities. We also had some supplies that were related to the festival, but that we'll have other uses for. So you see those as well. And then we did have some summer festival expenses also that continued to come through September. So overall, we're sitting really good for the year. We're definitely had a really good month, and then this has now brought us into the red for the year. Any questions on the income statement?
I think you mean brought us into the black for the year.
Sorry, thank you. Oh my gosh, it's been a long day. I just got back from vacation, so thank you, David. Yes, brought us back into the black. Out of the red. That's what I meant to say. All right, Jess, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Okay, guys, we will go ahead and move on here. We have a presentation this evening for a potential development. So a couple different things. First and foremost, before we actually proceed with the presentation, I am going to call a quick motion. We're going to just do a verbal vote to determine if there's anyone opposed to this. But part of our process that we're looking toward, that we're going to bring to the membership, is an attempt to update and kind of revise our voting process, especially for virtual meetings, so that folks can vote virtually rather than me calling each person's name and you needing to vote on each item. So the motion I'm calling now is that we allow virtual voting through our JotForm system this evening. This is the same system we use for memberships and everything we do at this point. Everyone will have access to that. I'll be sharing links to this issue and to a vote we have later regarding the secretary position. I'll share that here in chat. And then it'll also be available on our direct website at merionvillage.org for those of you who may be calling in and can't see links from chat. So I'm just calling that motion, and I'm asking if anyone is opposed. If so, please feel free to unmute yourself. Let us know. I'll just give everyone a moment. Okay. Seems like we will move forward with that. So I will turn the floor over to our zoning chair, Tate. Tate will introduce the individuals who are presenting this evening. We have 15 minutes allotted for this presentation, and during that time, we'll spend the first 5 minutes allowing the applicant to present the variances that they're requesting. We'll then spend the next 10 minutes. This is a little different than what we do normally. We'll spend the next 10 minutes allowing folks to ask questions and the applicant to respond. We'll do this in more of an open floor just because there are a lot of folks here and there may be a lot of questions. But just some ground rules. We do ask that everyone stay respectful. Try not to reiterate the same questions that have already been asked and answered. And please be respectful of time as well. We want to make sure all questions can be asked. So if you have a lot of questions, we ask that you just start with one and then let other folks have the floor. Until then, Tate, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Jess. We have one application on docket for today. We have 42 West Jenkins, and I do see representatives here on the call. I'll go ahead and give it over for Dave for the 5-minute presentation. Dave, go ahead.
Very good, thank you, Tate. I am having camera problems tonight, so that's why I'm not on the video. But good evening, everybody. Let me tell you who else is on the call for this project. John Edgar and Jordan Henderson with Community Development for All People. Carrick Sherrill with Columbus Design Company is the project architect, and I'm of the project. The Carrick, let's go ahead and have you start sharing the exhibits.
Are you on for the project, or are you on for as a neighbor?
I'm on for the project. Okay, our first slide, this is looking north, the site to Avenue, the yellow line to your right is South High Street, and Jenkins is the fronting street for this project. I'll point out to you the Jenkins, where it says Jenkins Loss on the south side of West Jenkins, is the Woda Cooper project for a similar type of project for affordable housing. And then the Community Development for All People state is where it says 40 West Jenkins, and an L-shaped parcel with the grass area to the west and up to West Neff Street. Next slide. Okay, a little closer view. Again, the building where it says 42 West Jenkins, that will be removed, and the site is an L-shaped parcel that includes the grass area to the west. West Jenkins is at the bottom of the west. F is at the top of the screen. The site does not include the building all the way to the right of your screen. There's one building between South Wall Street and the development site. Next slide. Okay, we have a couple ground photos. This is the building that will be removed, the north side of West Jenkins. Let's go to the next one, please. And this is just looking back from a little farther west on West Jenkins, showing you the area. And then next, Carrick. Yep, here we're up on West Neff, looking at the site. It's the grass area and the building in the distance, and this is a good photo to show you the Woda Cooper project, the building that's well underway. Next slide. Okay, our site plan. Again, the L-shaped parcel. The property is presently zoned manufacturing. The rezoning application is Z22060. We also have a variance application pending. That is CV22-081. The rezoning is to rezone the site from the manufacturing district to the AR2 residential. Cooper site on the south side of West Jenkins was rezoned to. And the proposed site development is as depicted. Carrick has designed an L-shaped building, and we'll come back to the building. And then entrances for access to the site and parking on both Jenkins and Neff, and the parking field laid out, as you can see, good perimeter landscaping and so on. Next slide. Yep. Okay, Carrick, we'll come back to the variances. Carrick, on the buildings, or building, I should say.
Sure. The building is designed, to create the, rhythm of townhomes along the street frontage. It's a 4-story building with 3-story townhome shapes. It's similar to what you see across the street with the Woda Cooper project. It also brings in some of the cues from past manufacturing uses in this area, in an attempt to kind of break down the mass so it's not all the same aesthetic. There's a mix of different siding types planned for the 1st through 3rd floors, with the 4th floor being primarily a flush metal panel and a metal eyebrow at the top. So, these are very preliminary, but for now, we think this is a good composition for the street and neighborhood. The building is generally focused towards the west and the south, where we have less potential to impact any single-family homes or less dense development.
Okay, thank you, Carrick. Would you roll back to the site plan and I'll run through the variances? There you go. Thank you. So, okay, the project is 70 dwelling units, and there are 4 variances associated with it. Tate, when we're done, I have a slide listing the variances if you want it, but we'll show them first in relation to the site plan. Okay, so variance number 1, Carrick, would you point to West Neff Avenue and where we have the parking setback at 4 feet? Yep. Down, yep, there we go. So variance number 1 is the West Neff parking setback is reduced to 4 feet. The parking is laid out to fully comply with the code required parking lot screening. The number 2 is minimum numbers of parking spaces. 70 units at the code required 1.5 spaces per unit is 105 spaces. We are proposing 85 spaces. Number 3 is 3 variance is a quirk of the zoning code. It's a variance to the section called fronting. And that is because West Jenkins Avenue is not a public street as defined in the zoning. It is less than a 35-foot right-of-way. So we have a variance to fronting. The building fronts on West Jenkins. And then we have a variance to rear yard to reduce the rear yard percent from 25% to 9%. And that's, 9% on the rear yard. Let's, Tate, do you want to, do you or the group have any questions at this point, or do you want me to roll to the list of the variances?
Let's go ahead and just display the variances on the screen so folks can see them when they're asking questions. Tate,
And
you won't
sure
need to type
There
in
we
this
go.
one since we're going to kind of open the floor. But if we can just keep this list of variances up so everyone is able to ask questions about those. And yes, we will go ahead and open the floor. If you're using the Zoom app, you can feel free to use the hand raise feature if you're able. If not, please feel free to just unmute yourself and jump in, and we'll start taking those questions now.
Hi, I have a question about the group's involvement with the development and the variances. I'm new here to the group, and I just was curious why you guys are going over the developments in the area and the variances.
This is just a process that the City of Columbus does allow the Area Commission and local civics to go through. We get to review rezoning requests and variance requests so that we can provide feedback on any variances or rezoning that's requested. And then we pass those along to the Area Commission and to the City of Columbus for their review process.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Will there be any new housing developments in the area?
So, Tasha, questions for actually should just be specific to this project and these 4 variances at this
Did you
point.
hear my question?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. We're going to keep questions at this point just to this project, but we can certainly talk about those items later during our open floor of the meeting if you like. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on. We've got a few hands raised now. Kevin Parzich.
My question would be, how many bike parking spaces are being provided in the site development?
The bike parking will actually exceed code, Kevin. The 105 spaces would require 6 spaces, and we've agreed with the planning staff to put in a couple extra.
Thank you.
As part of
Martin
this
McDonald?
development, we typically provide a small amount of interior bike parking. Just as a note, these developments typically have some kind of interior bike room for people that use their bike on a regular basis. Just as a information and clarification.
Thanks for that,
That's
Eric.
fantastic. Thank you.
Martin McDonald, and then after Martin, Mark Huckabee, please.
Thanks. Apologize if I missed this, but what's the timeline for completion of this project?
This is it's a community development for all project. Community development will be making financing applications by about February, but the Ohio Housing Finance Authority requires zoning to be in place for the project prior to the application. So zoning has a several-month lead time. We're in the early stage of this with the Merion Civic Association review. It will next go to the area commission on the area commission vote. The zoning will go to the Columbus Development Commission, and both the rezoning and variance will be at council, Columbus City Council, sometime in January. Then community development for all people will proceed with their financing application. So we are let's see, we're probably a year plus out from starting discussion or construction, sorry.
Mark, go ahead.
Hey, this is Mark Huckabee. I'm at Moeller and Brook, and my question is regarding parking. We typically see most, if not all, of the developments coming into Merion Village reducing by a little bit, and I appreciate you only reduced a little as opposed to a lot like some do. But should there be more parking needed? Has there been a street study, or what's the street environment touching the property now to allow for street parking? Thank you.
There has not been a street study. The variance did not rise to the threshold of where the city requires a parking study. So to your point, and thank you for that, it is it's a pretty minor reduction in code required parking, and it's adjacent to bus service. Community Development for All People is an affordable housing builder, and as is Woda Cooper on the south side of Jenkins, and part of the selection criteria, one of many site selection criteria, is proximity to bus lines.
Thank you for that. I don't see any hands raised. Anyone else have questions they'd like to ask? Okay, I have posted the voting link in chat. I've also posted the link on the front page of the Merion Village Association website. That's just marionvillage.org. So if you're here tonight, please go ahead and head over there and vote. We will close voting here in the next 5 minutes, just going to make sure that we can give some results before the meeting ends. And then, of course, we will go through our due diligence after the meeting concludes to verify membership for everyone who does vote, just before we report those final numbers over to the Area Commission for the city's records. But please feel free to follow that link and go ahead and get your votes in. If there are any final remaining questions, we will take those while everyone starts to vote.
Just during this vote period, I ask just a general question that I don't know if anybody can answer.
Sure, go ahead.
Hey, so I'm familiar with Church for All People and their associated companies, but in general, can somebody give me an idea when we say low-income housing or whatever the phrase is, what the target rent is for a place like this? And I don't expect the designer and those folks to answer necessarily, but is anybody familiar with what that means legally?
Well, it's called affordable housing, and
Okay.
the city has different ranges of what that means, but the range typically is a variety of 30 to 80% of area median income. AMI, it's called.
Thanks. That's really helpful. Appreciate it.
Sure.
And I see a question in chat about voting. So if you are not a member of the association currently, you would not be able to vote this evening. Voting rights are limited to folks who have been members of the association for at least 21 days and those who live within Merion Village or who own a business within Merion Village. So since we have a lot of new faces, just wanted to reiterate that. Lots of you are getting your votes in there. They're coming in quick, so I'll have some results here for you. I will be able to close down the voting I'll do it here at 7:30 in the next couple of minutes, unless someone tells me they're still in process. So please let us know if you are still in process of voting at 7:30, and I'll double check before we close it down. Any other questions that folks have for the developer while they are here, while we're waiting on those votes to come in?
Jess, this is Dave Perry. Would you like the screen up or take that down at this point?
You can go ahead and leave it up, Dave, if you'd like, just so folks can have that reference. Those vote items are in our form as well, so people can see them. But just to make it easier for folks, if you want to leave it up, that's no problem at all.
Very good.
I'll ask a question that I'm not even sure if you can answer this necessarily, Dave, but I believe you worked on the last project that Woda Cooper developed on Jenkins. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Could you just let us know, if you do know, how quickly those units were filled? From our perspective, they were filled very quickly, and I assume additional affordable units would be filled quickly as well. So lots of new neighbors for us. Do you have any idea how long it took to fill the units when they were constructed?
I don't. I had heard from Woda also that they filled quickly. I don't have a number of days or a couple months for you, but I had heard that they were filled quickly also, and there's a need citywide. This is a major policy agenda item for Mayor Ginther and City Council also, the development of affordable housing.
Thank you for that.
There's
Okay.
there's typically a waiting list that's kept by the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority for folks that qualify for low-income housing and to live in low-income housing tax credits. Typically, these projects lease up in a handful of months, and that's primarily because of logistics of moving that many people in. If you can imagine moving 70 families or 70 couples into a building, you have to schedule that very carefully. So it will likely be fully spoken for before construction is complete, and then moving folks in will just be the logistics of completing that task.
Thank you for that, Carrick. Okay, I'll just answer one quick question that I see in chat. So Eric, you're correct. This is not a binding vote tonight. Our vote is a recommendation. We will pass this recommendation on to the area commission, who will also review and make their own recommendation, all of which will then go to city council for the official review process. So we are just weighing in and giving our recommendations tonight. I'm going to go ahead and close down the voting form unless anyone tells me that you are still in the process of voting. So if you are, please let me know now. Okay, I am disabling the form and I have results for everyone. Just a moment, please. We had a total of, let's see here, 17 voters this evening. So the first item is whether or not to rezone the lot. We have 16 votes in support, 1 opposed, and no abstentions. And then of course we have issues 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we've got some different numbers on those, and I'll just read each one out. So number 1, which is the parking setback, 16 support, 1 opposed. In number 2, to reduce the minimum number of parking spaces from the required 105 to 85, 16 support, 1 opposed. The fronting to be permitted on West Jenkins Avenue, 16 support, 1 opposed. And the rear yard reduction, 15 support and 2 opposed. So those are our recommendations. Again, we will verify everyone's membership information and then pass that along to the area commission and ultimately to the city. So thank you everyone so much for participating and for going through the voting process. We can talk about it at the end if there were any aches and pains folks want to get out there, but I do appreciate everyone being so able to fill that process. And thank you
Also,
to, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, just one moment.
No,
I know there's some questions in the chat as well. If anybody has confusion about the process, I'm more than willing to have a meeting with you guys. I know we also, like just mentioned, we have new members. We kind of want to understand what we do and then the process. I'm more than willing to sit and set up a meeting to kind of explain what we do as well. Sorry to interrupt, Jess.
No, thank you, Tate. Thank you for that very much. Yes, absolutely. And we will also have an open floor at the ending of this meeting tonight and are happy to answer questions there as well. So always happy to see new faces and get folks into the loop. Okay, applicants, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
All right, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Okay, we will move on here to our next agenda item. So we have another vote. I'm going to go ahead and put the link for this one in the chat now, and then we'll kind of explain what this vote is. If you attended our meeting last month, you're already aware. But if not, I'll just quickly recap. One moment here, get this into chat for everyone. Okay, and this link is also on the front page of the Merion Village website if you are calling in. So our current secretary, Lena, owns a property here in Merion Village where she lives. Lena has purchased another property and will actually be moving to our neighboring neighborhood, Hungarian Village, before the end of the year, right, Lena?
Correct, yep.
Okay, so she'll still be local, but no longer residing in Merion Village. We've done a review of our bylaws, and while there is some conflicting information, ultimately it does not appear that Lena would continue to be able to serve in that role as a residential member when she moves out of the neighborhood, and owning a rental property does not necessarily qualify someone as a business member. So what we're doing this evening is calling a motion to determine whether or not members are willing to allow Lena to finish out her term, which ends December 31st, 2023. So about 14 more months, as even though she will be moving out of the neighborhood. Lena will not be able to vote on Merion Village issues and in elections once she moves, but if she receives supporting votes tonight, she would at least be able to finish her term as the secretary for the association. So if you didn't hear this conversation last month, or just in general, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and ask those. And then I also did put the link in chat so everyone can vote on this as well. Eric?
So I wasn't at the meeting last month, but can you recap a little bit of the sentiment? Not all the discussion, obviously, but was the general consensus supportive? Was it agnostic? Can you give us just a little bit of the, temperature in the room at the time?
Yeah, so generally, folks who were present last month, when we look specifically at Lena and her service, we're very positive about Lena staying on and being able to finish, especially since she's just moving a few streets over and will still be active in the neighborhood. However, in general, when we talk about the bigger issue, which we will address at some point in the next several months, we'll be bringing this to folks, we do agree that the language in the bylaws does need to be more clear, because there may be situations where the current setup isn't necessarily appropriate and could allow people to serve on the board that might not be really actively involved in the community. But in general, with respect to Lena specifically, everyone was very positive and hopeful that she'd be able to finish out her term. Let's see here. Any other questions?
No, but I'll just also just wanted to, I don't know if this came up last month or not, but we have historically had a challenge to find willing participants for the secretary role. So just also wanted to make sure that the membership is aware of that specific, and been great to have, obviously I'm on the board, and great to partner with Lena, and appreciate all her service and support, but that would definitely be a difficulty for us to find another person, willing to, we have, challenges to finding anyone to serve, let alone, in this type of capacity. So just want to make sure that was also clear.
Yes, I will second that. The secretary role is a very busy one, lots of agenda and minute preparation. So Lena is certainly never bored with secretary duties. I see someone asking just a kind of a general question about the duties. So Lena does prepare all of the agendas for our meetings, whether that's a monthly meeting, a board meeting, if we have special meetings. She does take minutes at all of the meetings as well. And sometimes when she hasn't been able to attend a meeting, she will look at our video recordings and transcribe the notes to make sure we have accurate minutes for those as well. So those are the primary roles. Lena, is there anything else I'm forgetting?
No, that's definitely the meat of the role.
And as someone who served as secretary for a few years ago myself, I can tell you it is time consuming, but well worth it. So we do appreciate Lena very much.
And I'll just add on for Lena's sake too. The biggest part of all of our roles is the other duties as assigned piece, because Lena does so much more. She jumps in with different events or programming or different tasks that we have on the board. So that while that may be the official duties of the role, there's so many more things that each of us does, and Lena is no exception there.
All right, looks like we've got about 13 votes in. Is anyone still voting, or can I go ahead and disable the form and provide the results? Okay, seems like we are okay on that one as well. So let me go ahead and get the results for everyone. Just one moment, please. All right, we have a total of 15 votes, 14 in support of Lena finishing her term and 1 abstention. So Lena will remain our secretary through the end of her term of December 31st, 2023.
Yay. Thanks, y'all. Excited to be here for one more year. Thanks for keeping me, even though I'm officially an intruder now.
No, a neighbor.
Neighbor, yes.
Yes.
Much better.
Wonderful. Thank you again, everyone. Really appreciate you helping us out with the voting process. I think that went pretty well, so I appreciate everybody participating. All right, we will move on here to one of our next items. So also coming up this year and every year is the 2022, well, it's not the 2022 every year, but our annual elections. So this year, the positions on the board that are up for election is president, vice president, and member at large, which is up every year. So the president will serve a term starting in January of next year through December of 2024. So will the vice president, and the member at large would serve a term starting January of next year through the end of next year. So we have currently 3 nominees, one for each role. Myself, Jess Norman, nominated for the president again. Lauren Lyric, our current vice president, nominated as vice president. And David Hoyt, our current member at large, nominated as member at large. So we are actually opening the floor as well. We can continue to take nominations during this meeting, and after that, nominations will close and we will vote for these positions next month. So I'll let everyone just kind of give a quick intro on themselves. But before I do that, is there anyone present that would like to nominate a member to fill any of the roles I mentioned? Okay. No additional nominations. I'll just take a quick moment to introduce myself. I'm Jess Norman. I was born and raised here in the South Side or South End, and I've been serving on the Merion Village Board since 2014 in a variety of roles. The only thing I haven't done is member at large and treasurer, because that is just too much work, frankly. I love serving. I would love to be back as your president again if you will have me, and just looking forward to meeting more folks and getting our community even more engaged. And Lauren and David, if you'd like to say a couple words about yourself as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Lyric. I live here in Merion Village with my husband, Mike Pikeuch. We've lived, I think this month, it's 5 years in the neighborhood. I've been on the board most of those years. I started off as a member at large, then moved into vice president. And it's my husband, Mike, is the social chair. So by me being on the board, you kind of get a 2-for-1, and he's really the more important one. He has a truck, so very helpful with carting things around for the association. But yeah, we've really enjoyed getting to meet all of the neighbors and just getting to help out and pitch in wherever needed. So excited for another term, hopefully.
Hi, I'm David. I moved here to Merion Village in the summer of 2021, so like 15 months ago. And I think Eric earlier said that the secretary has a lot of other duties as assigned. And as far as I can tell, member at large is basically all other duties as assigned. I like very much being at large. But in addition to attending the board meetings and things, I just help out with a lot of the events. And my greatest competitive advantage is probably I live across the street from the info center, so that makes it very easy for me to check the mail. But yeah, I think I'm the newest resident on the board, but I've enjoyed my time in Merion Village so far and my time on the board. So I'm excited to hopefully continue doing that.
Thank you both so much. Fantastic. All right. Well, so please tune in next month when you will be voting for each of us and whether or not we can continue to fill those positions. So we appreciate everyone. And if you're ever interested in a position on the board, we'll have elections next year as well. And there will be some more opportunities for nominations at that time. All right, moving on. I will jump in here about the festival to give a quick recap. If you did not get to join us for the festival, you sure missed a wonderful day. After a 2-year hiatus with our last event, our last festival being held in 2019, we went into this not exactly sure what the day would hold. It of course did start with rain, which dried up thankfully, and we had a wonderful, beautiful day. Everyone can jump in here, but I think it's definitely our biggest festival ever. Just a really fantastic day. Everyone had a great time. We had some local photographers helping us capture video and photos that we'll be turning into an art project. We had really cool mugs with a couple different logos this year, which was exciting. Great food trucks, amazing vendors, fantastic entertainment, and Jennifer Lynn was our MC. It was really just an awesome day, and I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but if anybody was there or wants to jump in, we really had a great day, and our festival committee was amazing. So huge thanks to anyone who is here, and of course those who aren't as well, but cannot thank everyone enough for helping to pull off this really fantastic event. And the volunteers too. My gosh, I cannot forget the volunteers who worked their butts off all day and really helped to make it an incredible event.
Yeah, I just wanted to second the committee. Kudos. And I'm going to call people out because this was, incredible. I thought this year, especially considering everything that came out. So if I get anybody wrong, please somebody else correct me. But Mike, Tate, Allison, Jess, I'm going through the list. Sorry, real fast.
I think Amanda.
Amanda, yes, thank
Sarah
you.
and Tony, they're not on, but Sarah and Tony also played a huge role.
Tom and Zach.
Zach, I thought Zach was on. I was looking, I guess he must have dropped. Allison, anybody else that we missed? I just want to make sure everybody realized, like, we had such a great committee. Usually it's like 4 people.
Jeff
this
probably
year.
knows.
Yeah, I think you got everybody. I'm mentally going through my head thinking, oh gosh, please don't forget anyone. But I will say we did have the biggest committee this year that we've ever had,
Yes.
and just such an active committee. Lisa Rantala helped us out for a while as well. But just, the festival we start working on the festival in like February or March so that we can put it on in September. And, there's just a lot of physical work, all of the loading. We basically take everything out of the info center, pack it into a U-Haul, take it to the park, and then unload it when we're all done. So it was definitely a lot of work, but so worth it. I think this is probably my favorite event. We get so many folks to learn about the association that didn't even know we were in the neighborhood, and you get to meet so many neighbors. It's really just a perfect day.
And Tate,
Also,
did I say Tate?
You said Tate.
Sorry. Okay, good. Just making sure. You just
also, I
popped on
didn't
the
say.
screen.
I appreciate the double call out there. I do want to say that Jess, I feel like doesn't get enough praise. So thank you, Jess, so much for all your help. And we couldn't have done it without you. So I just wanted to make sure you get your praises as well.
David. Well, awesome. Seriously, it was a true group effort, and I hope we have the same group and even some more folks next year, and it'll be even better. So that's right. Already thinking about next year, and it hasn't even been over for like 3 weeks, but always looking forward. So again, thanks everyone. If you attended, if you weren't able to, definitely join us next year. We've got some new things in store already we're talking about, so looking forward to it. All right, let's chat with folks about the potluck. So if you've been around for a little while, you'll know that we typically do not hold a meeting in December. We actually replace it with a neighborhood potluck. We've had this at different places around the neighborhood. The last few years we've been at Hey Hey, and they've hosted us. Hey Hey does also host our chili cook-off typically, where we raise funds for the scholarship in like March. So we kind of want to ask folks, do you have any suggestions of where we should hold it in Merion Village this year? We do need to be able to support, I would say probably at least 50 people. Does that sound right, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, this will be our first really true in-person back from COVID. So, so maybe a little bit less. You never know. Sometimes we'll plan for 20 and 50 people show up, and then vice versa. So
okay. So we're definitely interested to hear what you guys think about locations in Merion Village that might be able to host that size of a group. Hey, of course, is an option if they're available, but we want to hear if there's other suggestions. And then we also want to hear from folks when you're going to be more likely to attend. So people we typically do this, like I said, first or second week of December, but there's always a lot of office holiday parties and people that are pretty busy. So, are you looking for a Wednesday evening, a Friday evening, a Saturday, or a Sunday? What works for folks? We'll also circulate this on social media and let people have an opportunity to weigh in. But we really couldn't make that decision on our own because we're not sure when people are most available. So we'd love to hear from you. Anyone have any thoughts they want to share on that?
I'm a fan of the weekend because otherwise I won't be able to cook. So
That's true. That's very true. It's a lot easier if you have the day to cook, because if you're trying to come right after work, that definitely makes it hard. We've typically always done an evening. I mean, if folks are more interested in trying to do like a later afternoon, I think that's something we could talk about if it's on a weekend. So we'll circulate like a little poll to ask folks, so you don't have to answer right now, but we'll definitely be looking for your feedback. So we hope that you will let us know your thoughts.
yeah, we shifted the chili cook-off this year to a Sunday. That was different for us. And that was, pretty well received. I thought we had a huge number of both participants and chilies. So maybe, that might be something to also consider, maybe like a Sunday afternoon, because usually you don't deal with holiday parties and stuff then too. So a thought.
Someone might have mentioned this already, but I think we're looking at probably the first couple weekends in December, because once you get further than that, that's when you get into all the other parties and the actual holiday things. So
yep. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll put up a poll, let people vote, and we'll kind of give some different date and time options and see what people think, and then we'll start looking for a spot that can host us. So happy to take those suggestions as well. All right, let me see here, get down on the agenda. So I just want to
Rumors might be another good option, Jess. Sorry, I know we partnered with them on the mural. Okay. It's hard for like restaurants because then we compete with their business. Yes. So, bars that have, limited food offerings that we don't mind if we show up with a whole bunch of, potlucks, and then let their regular patrons also graze and munch a little bit. So that might be a good option. I don't know. I think Tate, you worked a little bit on the mural committee. I don't know if you think they might be receptive. That may be something to somebody put on the list.
Yeah, I can reach out to them. I would think that they'll probably be pretty receptive. I don't think Amanda's on. She worked with Rumors more closely than I did, but I don't think there'd be any hesitation there. I think that's a great spot, so we could look at the beautiful mural.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. So hopefully we'll be able to pick a date and a location here in the next couple of weeks, and then get that announcement out. All right. I want to give everyone an update. If you attended this meeting or have been at a recent meeting, you'll know that some neighbors who live next door and very near to Mid-City Garage, one of our local bar and sometimes restaurant as well, over on Jaeger. Folks were having some issues with loud music late into the evening, some problems with patrons coming into their yard to urinate and other things, and just really having a lot of concerns and not able to necessarily connect with the right folks at Mid-City if they went over to the establishment and tried to find someone to speak with. So we jumped in and tried to help coordinate by having a meeting and letting folks kind of talk about those issues. A couple folks from the Mid-City team joined that as well, and kind of our next step and thought was that we could prepare a good neighbor agreement between the neighborhood and Mid-City to just kind of address those issues and see what could be done to hopefully mitigate problems. I did finally get a response from Mid-City, I believe yesterday. I had had some issues following up with them, and I wasn't hearing back, so I wasn't sure what was really going to transpire. I will say that the follow-up I sent to them and the request we had was to kind of move forward with that good neighbor agreement, and I was asking whether or not they would still be interested in doing that. Their response does not confirm whether or not they will still be interested in pursuing a good neighbor agreement, but they did let us know that they spoke to the hourly staff about concerns, that music levels are being monitored and adjusted at the appropriate times, and that paying guests have been kind of gently coached and reminded by staff to be considerate of surrounding neighbors when leaving the establishment. And they've also cracked down on their no smoking policy on the property. So I've only heard from one neighbor since this update who is still having problems. So we will continue to try to kind of bridge that gap and maybe get a good neighbor agreement in place. But it does sound like the folks at Mid-City are working internally and with their patrons to just try to be a good neighbor. So we hope that will continue. And of course, if there's any additional updates, we will share them. All right. Let's see here. Committee updates. We don't have anything. We do not have a current beautification committee active. If that's something you're passionate about, we would love for you to let us know. Beautification can do pretty much anything in the neighborhood that makes things look better, whether it's cleanups or projects to get trees planted, working on planters, just whatever you think would make the neighborhood more beautiful. If you're interested in chairing that committee or participating, please let us know. Membership committee, it's pretty much just a board-driven committee at this point. So I will remind everyone that our membership renewal period has opened. So if you were a member in 2022, you can go ahead and renew your membership for next year. And if you're not a member, this is a great time to sign up because you'll be a member for the rest of 2022 and all of 2023. So head over to our website. We do have a new membership verification tool that you can use. Sorry, there's a car alarm going off. A new membership verification tool you can use to see if you are a current member. So hopefully that'll help folks as well verify that information. Mike, do you want to give a social committee update about our next happy hour?
Yes, I have been in talks with Schumacher Place, and we had a happy hour with them. I actually forget. I think it might have been like May, earlier in the year, and we met up at Hey Hey, and it was definitely a huge success. Had a ton of people come out from both sides actually, and plenty of new people from the Merion Village side, which was awesome. So seeing as Parsons North was a great partner with our festival, we decided to do another meetup with Schumacher at Parsons North, a little bit more on their home turf. But I think actually Parsons North was like the last happy hour we had before COVID, and it was like our biggest one ever. So it was really a bummer when we like put them on pause for a while. So hopefully we have a good attendance for this one. Just looking at the date here. So it'll be the 20th, October 20th. We told them we would meet around 6 p.m. If that's too early for you, we'll still be out, I'm sure, for a couple hours there. So join whenever you can. And I think Nathan, one of the owners, said that they would kind of block off the covered patio area. So hopefully the weather's cooperative and not too freezing, and we'll try to meet out there.
Thank you so much, Mike, for keep continuing to organize these events. The Schumacher joint events are such a cool idea. I think that's a really great opportunity to make sure we can do some more with our neighbors to the north. And just in general, thanks for getting people out and meeting everyone up. We're excited to be able to do that again. So we appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, Tate, nothing else on zoning right now, right? Just what we had for presentation this evening.
Yep, nothing else to report. Looks like we have at least one on the docket for next month, but no, nothing else new.
I will say that some of you may have seen the news article about the very significant development that is being proposed from the owners of the fort. While the fort itself is not in Merion Village, the property across the street, so west of Parsons, that actually is Merion Village. That's kind of our boundary down in that area. And so those presentations will be coming to us. That is a very large scale project. So when the application does come forward, and my guess is that there will be multiple applications over the next several years, we will likely be holding special meetings for those so that there is enough time for the applicant to properly present and for folks to ask questions, because when you have a development of such scale, there are typically a lot of questions. We'll also be making sure that our neighbors in the Reeb-Hosack area are invited to attend that meeting, since part of their boundaries are kind of right across the street from that. So keep on the lookout for that. We'll of course send a membership notification when we know more about when that will be, but that will very likely, almost certainly be a special meeting. So it will not be held during our normal monthly circuit. All right, I don't think we have any commissioners here this evening, do we? Okay, so no Southside Area Commission updates, but if they're with us next month, we'll certainly give them the floor to discuss any updates they have. Community events. There is a neighbor organizing a South End Community Cleanup Day on Sunday, October 9th. They're going to be meeting at 8 and Sand, which is a local bar, and the cleanup is scheduled to go from 12 to 3. It's still kind of developing, so they're not exactly sure what areas they're going to target exactly. I think it kind of depends on how many volunteers show up, maybe where those folks live. But we certainly want to share that information with folks. And if you're available on Sunday, October 9th and want to get your hands a little dirty, it would be a great chance to participate in a cleanup before the weather starts to get a little too cold to do so. So we'll publish that on our Facebook page and Instagram just so folks know about it. But in general, we thank that neighbor for helping to organize that event, and always excited to see folks putting together cleanups. So Allison, I see you have your hand raised.
Oh, yes, I do. So I just wanted to let everybody know that if you are not familiar with Walker Park at 241 East Morrill, it's right at Morrill and Brook. We have Walker Park there, and we do a bi-weekly story time every other Monday. So let's see, we had it this week. So the next one, what's that date, Jess? Do you?
17th.
The 17th. Okay, so that's our second to last story time. Our very last story time will be conveniently on Halloween. So I have decided to move my family over there for trick or treat, and we will do a little extra fun thing over there for our story time as people are taking their kids trick or treating. So please make sure that you guys stop by over there if you're out trick or treating, or if you're not trick or treating, feel free to come by. We'll probably have like snacks and apple cider and stuff. We have little games for the kids and stuff like that. So come on out and say hi and hang out if you're free.
Are you going to tell ghost stories?
No, like most of our children are really small. So they're like all under 4. So we're going to do something that is not scary. But we can scare you, Eric.
Non-scary ghost stories?
Yeah. We're gonna actually do like what I thought we would do is like do like a walk-along reading. So if they wanted to, they could read it on their own, since they won't be coming for like an actual story time. Or maybe have somebody reading a book like multiple times. I don't really know how that works yet, but we just have some extra fun stuff over there for them to do.
It's awesome. Love it.
Allison, thank you so much for organizing story time. This is the second year for it, right? Because I think you did it last year. I know you did it last year,
Yep.
but that's first.
Second
So,
year. Yep.
Love seeing
Excited
the park
to
get used so much.
Yeah, we're excited to, let more people know about it and get people over there. I'll tell you, when I drive by and I see somebody sitting in the grass reading a book, it really gives me goosebumps.
Oh, just pulled my.
Aha, pun intended.
Oh my gosh, Eric. Well, thank you for being kind of the caretaker of Walker Park and for getting story time organized. It's really kind of an awesome event, and I love seeing it. So, and I'm sure that neighborhood folks with kids have also been really enjoying it. So I've heard very good things. Also coming up, we've got the Southside, but the Southside Area Commission has their monthly meeting on Tuesday, October 25th. That is at Barrack Recreation Center, I believe. And then, of course, our next monthly meeting will be Wednesday, November 2nd. We will be voting for the current board positions that evening, and just talking about general information for the MVA, because that will be our final normal meeting of the year. So make sure you tune in so you can get all the information, and we'll talk about some of the things that we have coming up in the next year. Otherwise, I'll open the floor. Anybody have anything they want to share? Any questions? Anything on your mind? Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, so I don't mean this to be some giant question, but can someone give us a synopsis of our long-term planning? I was just thinking, here recently, that during the pandemic, we've had questions about sustainability of the information center and just other things, even beautification things. No, I don't have time to be a chair or something, but I'll always help, right? But I know we got those the planners as a hand-me-down and all of that, but we don't have many of them left, and really they don't look Merion Village-y, right? So I have this thing in my mind about statement pieces. We have the murals, right? And I'm going to go back to the Stilton mural. I absolutely love ours, but it's not a scream in your face statement piece. And to me, the arch is our statement piece, right? The one, I'd like to have about 7 of them or whatever it takes. But just in general, what is our outlook? How many years ahead are we attempting to long-term plan, or at least think? I don't want to look up one day and see the arch is falling apart or rusted and faded more than it is now. It looks good now still, but it's not going to be but a couple of more years, and that thing's going to start looking pretty rough. Is there something you can tell us about that, or something we should be thinking of as time goes by?
I'll talk about the arch specifically, and then just kind of in general planning as far as what we do as a board. The arch is actually a great question. I'm glad you brought it up, because we have been attempting to get the arch repainted and renewed since before COVID. Originally, the issue we had is that the contractor who was onboarded to do this and was going to do it stopped responding. They were no longer interested. And then the other contractors who had reached out, same thing, no response. So we did start the project up again, I think about a year ago. We did find someone local to the neighborhood who actually was willing to paint the arch portion itself, the frame basically, at no charge. But we did need to find someone to help us remove kind of the logo portion where, you know, it says Merion Village, remove that so that the arch could be spray painted and then put it back up. All of that does involve probably some type of permit and road closure because of where it's located. And we did open lines of communication to try to get folks to help us with that project, and everyone that we talked to just wasn't interested. We would very much like to pursue that project. We do have some funds to use toward that. It just comes down to the fact that we can't find anyone to do it. So, which is disappointing, because we would also like to see it renewed. Even though it does look good, it doesn't look great, and it could certainly look better. And we do want to make sure that it's protected and can be sustainable for years to come. So that is an open and active project that we would love to pursue. We just need contractors who are able to help us with it, essentially. So please send folks our way. Allison, you have your hand raised. Is it about the arch?
It is. I was just gonna say, man, you know, these developers that are coming in with these huge projects, wouldn't it be nice if they would, you know, as they're over here with their team and crew and stuff, I would think that that's something very simple that they could just pop over the road and do, right?
That would be great. I mean, we would certainly welcome any help.
Maybe they should donate an arch for every development project. And
Or
then we get marks 6 or 7, you know, before we know it.
Right.
I mean, it's not unreasonable that somebody bringing a large development in. So we know through looking at the Fort project that Stilton alone has had 100 development projects in whatever that time frame they quoted was. And just again, think about sustainability. We don't have the open, vast spaces to build giant complexes in Merion Village, but I'm just thinking, what are we doing? Because when I saw that number in the article, I was like, oh, that might be the up and coming place. What are we doing?
Well, and that is actually Merion Village. So
yeah. On that side, yeah. But you know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yep.
Nobody really thinks about it as Merion, you know.
You know, these developers that are coming in and acquiring. I just had a meeting yesterday morning about all the grant money that, it's a big focus for the city. But if you're not a giant developer with a lot of access to stuff and people, you aren't getting any of that money. So while we talk about affordable housing, you know, they're gaining too, you know, but then you have the little guy like me who really does buy a house to rent to people who are homeless, and I get nothing from the city, you know. So it's like, I think that they get a lot and they could give a little.
Yeah, I'd like to see
work
the
on something
developers
like that. Yes.
help out the neighborhoods. And
I would say I think it's like kind of what Allison's talking about, the ongoing problem of, you know, trying to find a contract for anybody for little projects is very difficult these days. Like, so even though to us it's a big deal, the arch is a small project to these contractors, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've got a 4-foot hole in my living room ceiling for 2.5 years now that I can't find somebody to fix.
Ugh.
So if anybody knows anybody that does plaster or drywall, I don't care what it looks like, and as long as it looks good.
As long as it's not a hole.
Yes. It has foam core over it right now.
Well, we would definitely love to get that project checked off and updated. It would certainly be something lovely for next spring. So we do love if folks have recommendations of people who might be willing to help us with that. I don't have any immediate contacts as far as the current developers, but you know, we can certainly put the feelers out to see if any of them would be willing to help maybe sponsor that project, and also help us actually get someone willing to do it, because it would be very nice to see that happen. Otherwise, just in general, your question, kind of long-term planning, I will say that at least from my perspective, and I'll ask the other board members to weigh in here, because the association and the board especially is, purely a volunteer organization, while each of us have, 2-year terms, or in the case of member at large, 1-year term, it can be difficult to really plan beyond those terms because we're not sure who will be volunteering at that time or if anyone will be willing to. When I first came into the association back in 2014, I actually joined as secretary and was appointed at the time because the position had been vacant for a while. So we are thrilled to have so many people these last several years be willing to fill the seats so that we have a full board, which is huge. If you've ever served on the MVA board and it wasn't full, you know that can be certainly a struggle. In general, I'd say the most long-term planning we really do is that we kind of have established this history of like our repeating events each year. So 2 yard sales, a potluck in December, our scholarship, which we've been doing on an annual basis, and the fundraisers associated with that, the festival, the garden tour, of course, which has been going on for over 20 years. But in general, we just kind of think year to year, what can we do to make sure we're fiscally managing the association well, fundraising when we can, and then of course giving back in whatever way we can, whether that's doing something for one of our local schools or providing a scholarship, beautification efforts where we can. But it all comes back to volunteers. Aside from the board, anyone who's willing to serve on a committee and help fill those roles, that's really the meat of the association and what makes us able to do anything in the neighborhood. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, or others if you think there's some other things we should share, but that's kind of my perspective.
So, I mean, Jess, while I don't disagree, and obviously we, struggle sometimes to pull off the recurring events that we have, I also would kind of be interested, like, could we get a group of people together, that might put ideas on on paper, right? To say, hey, we think that Merion Village and the city or whoever, right, should commit to improvements to Muller Park. We'd also like to see, speed bumps or better tree landscaping. We could come up with, like, it doesn't have to be like, this is what we're going to go do in year 5, but we could say, here's the list of things that we think over the next 10 years should be invested in, whether it's by the city or Merion Village or whoever. And then that gives each board, when they come on, to say, what can we tick off, right? Like, is this something we can go talk to our area commissioners about? Like, obviously, if we want improvements to Muller Park, like, we've got city resources to be able to help with that. So is that something they can do? If we want to do planters and statement pieces, that's something Merion Village can do. Or is there, way grants we can, work on, so I mean, I think it would help get the juices flowing. I definitely would be happy to, participate in that. And it's probably like 2 brainstorming sessions or whatever. We can come up with a list and then, kind of take it from there.
We did a neighborhood survey several years ago and kind of asked for feedback from folks of like, what do you want to see more from? And at the time, the most popular response was that people really enjoyed our events and wanted us to continue to do that. But maybe it's time for another one. We've got a lot of new neighbors in Merion Village. I mean, the area has exploded over the last few years. So maybe this would be a good opportunity for us to kind of gauge feedback from the community again, see what people really want us to focus on, so we can kind of create those guideposts for ourselves if we're still here in a few years, or our predecessors, just to see where we want to go. Allison's got her hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, I would love to be a part of that conversation. And I know Mark said he would also. I'm sure there's a host of other people who would like to be. But that would be a great opportunity again for us when we are seeing these developers coming in and these people who are making a ton of money in our neighborhood to give something back. We all as a neighborhood, as committees, as just regular people, put a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears, and some of our own personal money into this. And yeah, I think we should be asking these developers who are making a shit ton of money, pardon my French, but off of our community, right? We should expect them to give something back, and it doesn't hurt for them to do that. You know what I mean? So let's do that. Let's set that conversation up. I don't know what you guys think makes sense as far as like a timeline, but definitely while it's like, before the holidays, I think, and it's kind of like fresh on everybody's mind and like really kind of jiving about it, I think is probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think we'll probably do maybe a survey, and we can obviously talk about specifics too when we have our next board meeting, but I'm thinking probably a neighborhood survey and then maybe an open meeting that folks can come join if they want to be part of that conversation. So we can set some goals for not only next year, but going forward to see, what direction the association wants to focus in. All right, anybody else have any thoughts on that? Okay. Other than that, are there any other open floor conversations, questions, events coming up, comments, anything anybody wants to share before we adjourn this evening? All right, seems like that's it. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I know this was a long meeting. I appreciate everybody just, really joining the conversation, participating with our voting processes. So helpful. And I hope to see you all next month as well.
Way to run a very efficient meeting, Jess. We covered a lot, and I think that voting process was excellent. Really eliminated a lot of extra time.
I will tell you all from my end, just seeing the votes come in and being able to kind of report those results, everything ran really smooth. So unless I hear from someone that was here tonight that they might have had any problems, I think it went very well.
Sweet.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks everybody. We'll see everybody next month.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, folks.
Bye.